Hello and welcome to another delicious episode of I Completed 80s Music. I'm your head chef, the Egon Rone of 80s music, the 80s Mixtaper, and today we deliver you another amuse-bouche of the best, most interesting and most odd music from the best decade in pop. It's now playlist 24 and we're into May 1981, and what a delightful treat we have in store for you today. Well, it doesn't get any better than starting with Kim Carnes and Bette Davis Eyes, does it? Later on, we've got some Adamant as the Dandy Highwayman, a little love-in between Dr. Evil and Mini-Me with Grover Washington Jr., and we managed to squeeze in some squeeze amongst 7 other great tracks. As always, we can't play the tracks on the pod due to copyright laws, but if you go to the episode description, you'll find links to playlists for both Spotify and Apple Music, plus a full track listing if those links should fail on your pod platform of choice, so you too can listen along. But before we get to the tunes, as you know, we love your corrections, recollections, and any other fun 80s related stuff on this show. And this week we had an outpouring of love for UB40's The Earth Dies Screaming, especially as a live presence. Dermot Owen says, tune. I was 16 when this came out in 1980. Thomas Blornock says, I'm 57 nearly. From Derby. I was brought up on UB40. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant group and brilliant times, by the way. Dave75 Finney says, nothing beats it. UB40 at their best. PT Boy says, UB40 was part of my life. So enjoyable to wake up knowing I was walking down the street on the way to school. Keith Quinn 1963, my youth club song. Used to be the Valence Youth Club. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Just off Brick Lane in East London. This song always reminds me of my youth. Great days. And Seam100 said, saw them first in 82. This was from Signing Off, their first album. Loved them, but missed the first 2 tours. There just seems to be a real outpouring of love for UB40, and what's clear is UB40 wasn't just a band to people at this point, they were narrating a way of life. This song, with its aching reggae pulse, wrapped itself around people's teenage years, their thoughts, their hopes and fears, and it's all captured in these comments. Keep those memories coming. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find me on X, TikTok and Instagram as the 80s Mixtaper, or you can email me at completed80s, that's 80s, so completed80s at AOL.com. And we'd love to read your thoughts and memories. Anyway, it's now back to the music. For our first song on playlist 24, wow. I cannot for 1 minute believe this song came out in 1981. If I didn't know that, I'd have guessed the earliest this song could have been released was 1990. It's so clean with the synthesizers and the style. And it is an absolute classic, which has often been imitated, included very recently. But nothing comes close to the original, folks. In the spring of 1981, Los Angeles hums with the restless energy of a city on the cusp of regeneration. The Sunset Strip glitters, synths pulse through smoky studios, and Kim Carnes, a 35-year-old veteran with a voice like weathered leather, steps into Record One to cut a track that will sear itself into the decade's DNA. Bette Davis Eyes. Her reinvention of a 1974 Jackie DeShannon tune will pulse through the ages, but she doesn't know it yet. It's a mood, a slinking, seductive riddle wrapped in a Prophet 5 synth riff that feels like it's prowling through a neon-lit alley. Picture cards, hair tousled, eyes sharp, channeling a femme fatale who could unravel you with a glance. Here in this studio with producer Val Garay and a band working live in 3 takes, she crafts a sound that's somehow years ahead, a message from a future where MTV will reign and music will rule. Let's dive into Carnes' journey, the song's alchemy, and a production that feels like it saw the 80s and 90s coming. It's one of my favourites. This is Bette Davis Eyes, track 1, playlist 24. Kim Carnes was no overnight sensation. Born July the 20th, 1945 in Hollywood, California, she was a music lifer by the time Bette Davis Eyes came out. As a teenager, she was gigging in LA clubs, singing jingles by day, cutting demos by night. In 1966, she joined the New Christy Minstrels, a folk pop outfit alongside Kenny Rogers and Karen Black. She was 21, already writing songs, and soon signed a publishing deal with producer Jimmy Bowen in 1969, sharing studio time with future Eagles like Don Henley and Glenn Frey. Her early years were a grind, writing for others, singing backup, even penning Sing Out for Jesus with Willie Mae Thornton in the 1971 film Vanishing Point. By the early 70s, she was touring with David Cassidy, co-writing songs with her husband Dave Ellingson for the Teen Idol's Global Jaunts. Carnes' solo career kicked off with her 1971 debut album, but it wasn't until 1980 that she started cracking the charts. That year, she and Ellingson wrote the songs for Kenny Rogers' concert album Gideon, including the duet Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer, which hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Her cover of Smokey Robinson's More Love from her 5th album climbed to number 10. She was 35, a veteran with a raspy voice, scarred from vocal cord nodules that drew comparisons to Rod Stewart of all people. Then came 1981 and her 6th album, Mistaken Identity, with its lead single, Bette Davis Eyes, a cover of a 1974 Jackie DeShannon and Donna Weiss composition. The song, originally a jazzy piano-driven number on DeShannon's new arrangement, was transformed by Carnes and producer Val Garay into something else entirely. Recorded live in 3 takes, no overdubs, at Record One in LA, it's a masterclass in reinvention. The Prophet 5 synth riff is the heartbeat and immediately recognisable, a pulsing futuristic hook that feels like it's prowling through a neon-drenched cityscape. The electronic drum punctuates the chorus with a metallic snap that Garay initially hated but later admitted was genius. Carnes sang through a Neumann U67 mic, her vocals raw and unpolished, dripping with a sultry wisdom that matched the lyrics' portrait of a femme fatale. Let's hit those lyrics. Her hair is hollow gold, her lips sweet surprise, her hands are never cold, she's got Bette Davis eyes. It's a vivid sketch of a woman who's as pure as New York snow, with Greta Garbo standoff size and a knack for making a pro blush. The song's not just a tribute to Bette Davis' piercing gaze, it's a warning about a seductress who'll roll you like you were dice until you come out blue. DeShannon said the inspiration came from watching Davis, now Voyager, her eyes commanding the screen. Carnes' version leans into that mystique, her voice a mix of admiration and caution. For the production, it's uncanny how forward-thinking it sounds. That Prophet 5 synth was a harbinger of the 80s new wave explosion. The stripped-down arrangement, no horns, no frills, feels like a blueprint for the synth pop that would dominate later in the decade. Released in March 1981 before MTV even launched, the song's Russell Mulcahy-directed video with its shadowy dancehall and Carnes in a black pantsuit became an early MTV staple. It's like the track was built for a visual medium that didn't yet exist. Chart-wise, it was a juggernaut. It spent 9 non-consecutive weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, interrupted only by Stars on 45 of all things. It was the Billboard's biggest hit of 1981, second only to Olivia Newton-John's Physical. Internationally, it topped charts in 21 countries, including Australia, Canada and Germany. In the UK, it peaked at number 10, Carnes' only top 40 hit here. It snagged Grammys for Record of the Year and Song of the Year in 1982, with Mistaken Identity hitting number 1 on the Billboard 200 and going platinum. Bette Davis herself, 73 at the time, loved it. She wrote to Carnes, Weiss and DeShannon, thanking them for making her a part of modern times. Her grandson thought she was finally cool. Carnes visited Davis at her home, forging a friendship until Davis's death in 1989. The song's legacy endures, popping up in films like The Final Girls and TV shows like Riverdale. There has been covers by Taylor Swift and JoJo Siwa recently, but let's be honest, even old Swiftie can't touch the original. It's a song that feels timeless, a track that didn't just ride the 80s waves, it helped shape it. While we were in LA for track 1, we're back in London for track 2 today. Kim Wilde, a 20-year-old with a blonde bob and a voice built for the decade, is no longer just the girl who gave us Kids in America. That debut single, a synth-drenched anthem of youthful defiance, stormed to number 2 on the UK singles chart and made her a household name. Now, with the weight of a hit on her shoulders, she's back with Checkered Love, a track that crackles with raw energy. Alongside her father Marty and her brother Ricky, Kim crafts a sound that's less pop polish, more post-punk energy. A love song for the restless, delivered with a grit that dares you to look away. Let's step into the jagged heart of it. This is track 2. Released on April the 27th, 1981, Checkered Love was the second single off Kim's self-titled debut album, landing as track 6 and charging out the gate with an up-tempo beeping and a snarling guitar punch that feels like it's ripping through the speakers. It's got this raw, almost Blondie-esque vibe. Think Debbie Harry fronting a band built for a more modern era. The song hit number 4 on the UK singles chart, spending 9 weeks on the chart and earning a gold certification. It sold over 1 million copies worldwide, including 245,000 in France alone, and topped the charts in South Africa, following Kids in America to number 1. It also cracked the top 10 in Ireland, number 4, Australia, number 6, and several other countries, though it didn't quite conquer North America like its predecessor. Still, this was no sophomore slump. Kim was proving she could keep the momentum going. The song's written by Marty and Ricky Wilde, with Ricky handling production duties. Lyrically, it's a gritty love letter to the push-pull of a turbulent romance, inspired by the opposites attract dynamic of Kim's parents, no less. You say everything's alright, I say nothing can go right, yeah. Oh, what a game you can play. Sad days add to confusion, sad ways end in delusion, hey, that's the name of the game. It's got this restless, almost desperate energy, like Kim's pleading with a lover who's all wrong but feels so right. The chorus hits even harder. Well, I know your love is rough, and the road you take is tough, but I just can't get enough, checkered love. That's the hook that sticks, all raw emotion and driving rhythm, with Kim's voice confident but just a touch vulnerable, carrying the whole thing. Musically, Checkered Love trades some of the synth-pop sheen of Kids in America for a rockier post-punk edge. You've got those vibrant guitar riffs, a pounding drum beat, and just enough atmospheric synth to keep it in that early 80s new wave pocket, but it's still got the faint whiff of teen rock about it. The production's crisp, but it's got a scrappy charm like a young band playing in a house party that's about to get shut down by the cops. The symphonic rock band The Enid backed Kim on the album, though they got paid a pittance according to their leader Robert John Godfrey. Still, they brought a muscular energy to the track, making it feel like a live wire performance. The 12-inch version, by the way, isn't any longer than the 7-inch's 3 minutes and 20 runtime, but it's got better sound quality because the grooves aren't as compressed, a sneaky marketing trick from the era. The music video, directed by Brian Grant, is pure early MTV aesthetic. Set in a stark bathroom with black tiles, it's Kim sliding her hand down a mirror, smashing it with her fist, and owning the frame with big bold lighting and vivid contrasts. No 7 years of bad luck for her, Kim's career was just getting started. The B-side's worth a mention too. In the UK you got Shane, a non-album track, while the US release paired it with Everything We Know from the album. Oh, and fun fact, Checkered Love popped up in the end credits of the 2011 British comedy Chalet Girl, proving its staying power. Checkered Love is a song about craving something that's bad for you, delivered with a swagger that says Kim's not afraid to lean into the chaos. And for a 20-year-old under pressure to follow up a global hit, that's a bold move. By the time 1981 wrapped, Kim was on her way to becoming the most charted British female solo act of the decade, with 17 UK top 40 hits. Checkered Love was proof she could evolve without losing her spark. Track 3, and we return to Adamant. I'll always consider Adam and the Ants a kind of gateway drug. Think about it, you're almost 3 years old and your sister gets this vinyl compilation with a relatively decent cover of Stand and Deliver on it. This song and TV appearances of a dandy highwayman on top of the pops with all the garb, how could you not fall in love with music as a kid who was just starting to believe in stories, spaceships and fantasy? This also intersected with the Dick Turpin TV show, which ran from 1979 to 1982 in the UK, all its scenes a misty, murky Britain and a dark highwayman on a horse. Loved it. We pick up where we left off from Ant Music, from Kings of the Wild Frontier. That song was a manifesto, a tribal drumbeat rallying the weirdos to march to their own rhythm, and one of my favourite songs of 1980. But by 1981, Adamant and his merry band of dandy highwaymen are about to crank the dial to 11 with Stand and Deliver, the lead single from their third and final album, Prince Charming. This is Adamant at his peak, strutting, preening, and absolutely owning the UK charts while the world tries to keep up with his costume changes. Let's get into this swashbuckling moment, the album's creation, and how the Ant's sound and aesthetic evolved into something gloriously unhinged. Buckle up, because we're galloping through 1981 like Dick Turpin on a glitter-dusted steed. This is track 3. Stand and Deliver dropped on April the 27th, 1981 and stormed the UK singles chart, debuting at number 1 on May the 9th in 1981, where it camped out for 5 weeks, camp being the operative word. It was the band's first chart-topping single, a swaggering anthem that sold over 1 million copies and became the third best-selling single of 1981 in the UK. Written by Adamant and guitarist Marco Perroni, the track is a rollicking ode to her highwaymen, dripping with bravado. The lyrics set the scene. I'm the dandy highwayman who you're too scared to mention. I spend my cash on looking flash and grabbing your attention. It's Adamant leaning hard into his persona, a romantic outlaw, part Robin Hood, part James Dean, all cheek and cheekbones. The song's got the Burundi beat, those twin drum kits thundering like a cavalry charge, and a guitar riff that's equal parts punk sneer and baroque flourish. The video, shot at Hatfield House, is a 3-minute Hollywood epic with Adam swinging from the chandeliers in a frock coat, dodging pistols and winking at the camera like he'll be ravishing the lady of the house by sunset. It's pure theatre and it screamed to the MTV generation, this guy's a star. The Prince Charming album, released November the 6th, 1981 via CBS Records, was the Ant's follow-up to the phenomenon Kings of the World Frontier. Recorded at Air Studios in London during the summer of 81, it swapped out bassist Kevin Mooney for Gary Tibbs and leaned on producer Chris Hughes, aka Merrick, who'd helped craft their signature sound. But where Kings was a cohesive blast of tribal punk pop, Prince Charming feels like a finished article of something wholly unique to the UK charts in the early 80s. The album peaked at number 2 on the UK albums chart, held off the top spot by some cruel twist of fate, and spawned 2 more hits. The title track, another number 1 single for 4 weeks in September 1981, which we'll get to, and Ant Rap, which hit number 3 in January 1982 after a remix. The album's 10 tracks are a chaotic grab bag. Think Latin brass explosions on Scorpios, spaghetti westerns twang on Five Guns West, and the bizarre, and let me see if I can get this right, Picasso Visita El Planeta de los Simios, with its acoustic guitars and animal noises. Critics were mixed. Ian Birch in Smash Hits gave it a 5 out of 10, while AllMusic's Stephen Thomas Erlewine later called it style over substance, though he admitted the style wasn't half bad. The Ant sound had evolved from the raw post-punk of Dirk Wears White Socks to the polished theatrical pop of Kings of the Wild Frontier, but Prince Charming pushed it further into genre-hopping madness. The Burundi drums were still there, but now you've got horns, harmonicas, and a calypso vibe sneaking in. Adam and Marco weren't afraid to plunder history or global sounds. There's even a controversy about Prince Charming lifting from Rolf Harris's 1965 track War Canoe, though they'd settled their dispute. The album's certified platinum, with over 300,000 copies sold in the UK per Discogs, though exact sales figures are murky. It's a polarising record. Some fans, like those on Amazon UK, call it a flamboyant masterpiece. Others, like Trouser Press, found it forced and silly. For me, it's Adamant at his most audacious, throwing everything at the wall, tribal chants, western riffs, and a whole lot of eyeliner, and seeing what sticks. Stand and Deliver is the crown jewel, a song that's as much a performance as it is a pop hit, with Adam sneering, try and use a mirror, not a bullet or a knife. It's a call to arms for anyone who's ever wanted to strut through life unapologetically. The aesthetic, though, was next level. Now Adam's channeling Beau Brummel and French Revolution dandies, with ruffled shirts, gold braiding, and a swagger that's half aristocrat, half pirate. Whether this cartoonish image became a caricature that attracted more kids than fans is a point of contention, and something Marco Perroni certainly recognised in later interviews about their fame. But it worked, and for me was the entrance to a whole world of noise and everything which was to follow, and for that I have to thank Adam and the Ants. Time for another one-hit wonder? Well, one hit in the case of the 80s. Our next guy is actually a storied saxophonist. It's a song that's as smooth as a summer breeze and feels like a warm hug from someone you've missed for years. Grover Washington Jr.'s Just the Two of Us, featuring Bill Withers, released in February 1981 on Elektra Records. This is our first and only rendezvous with Grover, so let's get into the story, weave in Bills, and get to the heart of this silky, soulful banger that climbed the charts and snagged the Grammy. Does anyone else immediately think of Mini-Me and Austin Powers covering the "You and I" moment? Just me then. This is track 4. Grover Washington Jr., born December the 12th, 1943 in Buffalo, New York, was a saxophone prodigy who grew up surrounded by music. His mum sang in church choirs, his dad collected jazz records and played sax, and the house was alive with Benny Goodman and Fletcher Henderson. At 8, Grover got his first saxophone from his dad, and by his teens he was sneaking into Buffalo clubs to watch blues legends. He gigged with the vocal group Teen Kings alongside future jazz organist Lonnie Smith, then hopped to the Four Clefs and the Mark III Trio in Ohio. Drafted into the US Army, he met drummer Billy Cobham, who later introduced him to New York's music scene. By the 1970s, Grover was a sought-after musician, laying down soulful sax lines for CTI Records. His 1972 album Inner City Blues, with a cover of Marvin Gaye's classic and Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine, put him on the map. By 1975, Mr. Magic and Feel So Good hit number 1 on Billboard's R&B album chart and number 10 on the pop chart, cementing his jazz-funk cred. His sound, smooth, accessible, blending jazz with R&B, was a precursor to smooth jazz explosion. In 1980, signing with Elektra, he dropped Wine Light, the album that housed Just the Two of Us, and it became his career-defining work. Bill Withers, born July 4th, 1938 in Slab Fork, West Virginia, was a different kind of cat, a Navy vet who didn't start making music until his late 20s. He brought a raw, lived-in authenticity to soul. By 1980, he'd already given us Ain't No Sunshine, Lean On Me and Lovely Day, songs that cut straight to the bone with their honesty. But fame wore on him. He was winding down his solo career, wary of the spotlight, when Grover and producer Ralph McDonald tapped him for Just the Two of Us. Bill wasn't a hired gun. He co-wrote the song with McDonald and William Salter, and when he heard the initial lyrics, he wasn't impressed. "I'm a little snobbish about words," he told Songfacts. He rewrote them, adding vivid imagery like crystal raindrops to give the song its poetic edge. The track itself is a masterclass in easy breezy vibes. It's in F minor, with a chord progression that feels like a jazzy spin on Bobby Hebb's Sunny. Grover's soprano sax glides over Richard T's Fender Rhodes, Marcus Miller's bass and Steve Gadd's drums, while Bill's voice, fulsome yet tender, carries the melody. The lyrics kick off with, "I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through, to make those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you." It's a love song, sure, but it's less about mushy romance and more about seizing the moment before it slips away. The second verse nails it. "We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all that is, and it don't make no flowers grow. Good things come to those who wait, not for those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know." Hilda Harris, Orlando McCulloch and Yvonne Lewis back Bill up, their voices weaving into the chorus. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, building castles in the sky. Chart-wise, it was a beast. In the US, it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April 1981, stuck behind Sheena Easton's Morning Train and Kim Carnes' Bette Davis Eyes, and hit number 3 on the R&B singles chart. Across the pond, it reached number 34 in the UK, a modest showing, but enough for radio play and summer beach vibes. It snagged the 1982 Grammy for Best R&B Song, a nod to its craft and crossover appeal. Wine Light itself won Best Jazz Fusion Performance, and the song's success helped spark the 1980s smooth jazz boom. What makes it timeless? It's the alchemy of Grover's sax, those liquid, effortlessly clean lines, and Bill's voice, which feels like a friend telling you something real. The production, with Ralph McDonald at the helm, is crisp but never sterile. It's a song you feel in your chest, whether you're driving at dusk or sipping a cocktail in a beach bar. It's been covered. Japanese singer Toshinobu Kubota did a reggae tinge version in 1991 and an R&B take in 1995, and sampled like Will Smith's 1997 father-son rap version It's popped up everywhere, from The Simpsons to Hotel Transylvania, Transformania, to French cheese ads, and of course, Austin Powers. But the original, untouchable. Grover and Bill were titans in their lanes, jazz and soul, yet their collaboration feels effortless, like two old pals jamming. Grover, who passed in 1999, left a legacy as a smooth jazz pioneer. Bill, who left us in 2020, gave us songs that stick like glue. Just the two of us is their shared lightning bolt, a moment where craft, heart and timing collided. Ultimately, it's a reminder to grab what matters before it's gone. For track 5 today, we introduce one of my sneaky picks for bands which I hadn't really heard, but have fallen in love with their music through doing this end-to-end 80s thing. And I thought they were American doing American funk. How wrong I was. We're zeroing in on a track that shimmered like silver out of London's club scene and onto the UK charts with a seductive bass line and a vibe that feels like a late night conversation in a dimly lit bar. Body Talk by Imagination. This is the debut single from a trio that carved out a space in the UK soul dance scene with a sound that's transatlantic. Press play now. Imagination was born from the hustle and dreams of three guys, Lee John, Ashley Ingram and Errol Kennedy. Lee, born John Leslie McGregor in 1957, grew up in London but spent time in New York where he soaked up the soul scene, singing backup for acts like the Delphonics and chairman of the board. He had that high, emotive falsetto that differentiated him from a lot of the other male voices out there. Ashley Ingram, the guitarist and bassist, was the sonic architect, crafting grooves that felt like they could stretch into infinity. Errol Kennedy, the drummer, brought the pulse, having crossed paths with Lee and Ashley during an audition for a short-lived band called Midnight Express. The trio clicked, naming themselves Imagination, partly as a nod to John Lennon's Imagine, partly to Imagine a Neo sound. By 1981, they were ready to make noise, but they weren't chasing fame in the traditional sense. They were club kids, studio rats, and dreamers who wanted to make bodies move. Body Talk started out as an instrumental by Ashley, a bass-heavy groove that Lee heard one night and started scribbling lyrics. The words are simple but evocative, a lover's plea wrapped in sensuality. Morning, afternoon and night, we lay together side by side, searching for lust, searching for breath, searching for the touch of life. No grand metaphors, just raw intimacy, delivered with Lee's falsetto floating over Ashley's bass and Errol's steady beat. They took a demo to producers Steve Jolly and Tony Swain, a duo known for crafting polished pop soul. Jolly and Swain saw the potential, tightened the arrangement and gave it a sheen that could compete with the slickest soul and funk records without losing its gritty heart. Released in May 1981, Body Talk didn't immediately hit. Radio stations in Britain ignored it at first, but the clubs ate it up. DJs spun it, dancers swayed to that hypnotic bass line, and word spread. By the time it cracked the UK singles chart, it climbed to number 4, spending 18 weeks on the chart, the longest run of any pop record that year. It sold over 250,000 copies in the UK alone, a testament to its slow burn seduction. It also hit the top 10 in Ireland and France, proving its groove transcended borders. The track's success wasn't just commercial, it was a vibe shift. This wasn't American-style disco, it was a British take blending soul, funk, and a touch of post-disco cool that felt fresh and sexy. The song's parent album, also called Body Talk, dropped in October 1981 and hit number 20 on the UK's album chart, sticking around for 51 weeks and earning double gold status. Tracks like So Good So Right and Burning Up caught the ear of early house music pioneers. Frankie Knuckles himself remixed Body Talk. Imagination were laying groundwork for dance music's future. The album's sound, lush, layered and unique, stood out in a scene dominated by American influences. Let's talk about the song itself. Body Talk is a slow jam that doesn't rush. It's 6 minutes of pure mood, with Lee's voice gliding over a bass line that feels like it's pulling you into a trance. The lyrics keep it direct. No words are spoken, the only sound we hear is body talk, body talk. The production is crisp but not sterile. Jolly and Swain let it groove, with hand claps and subtle synth adding texture without overwhelming the core. You can hear the club influence, but it's not just a dance track. It's a song you sway to, maybe with someone's breath on your neck. Imagination's story up to Body Talk is one of grit and chance. Lee and Ashley met on the road, touring with bands while Errol's drumming gave them the backbone they needed. They weren't overnight sensations, they were gigging, auditioning and hustling in London's music scene, a world of smoky venues and late night sessions. Their name was a statement of intent. They wanted to dream big, to imagine a sound that was theirs. When Body Talk hit, it was proof their vision could connect. The track's legacy is sneaky but real. It's not as iconic as, say, Just an Illusion, their 1982 number 2 hit, which is a favourite of mine, but it set the stage. Imagination became one of Britain's first black major charting groups alongside Hot Chocolate, Lynx and The Real Thing, racking up 8 top 40 hits in the early 80s and charting in over 25 countries. It's the kind of track that makes you want to dim the lights, pour a drink and let the night take over. That's Imagination in 1981, 3 guys from London who made the world sway. Alright folks, we're back with Squeeze, who we last saw all the way back in episode 7, riding high off their 3rd album, Argy Bargy, with that razor-sharp single, Another Nail in My Heart. That track was a pop gem, tight, nervy, with Glenn Tilbrook's angelic voice and Chris Difford's gritty lyrics slicing through 1980 in the new wave scene. Now we're fast forwarding to May 1981, and Squeeze drops Is That Love, the lead single from their 4th album, East Side Story. This is the band stretching their legs, shaking off some of the new wave jitters and stepping into a broader, weirder, more soulful sound. This is track 6, press play now. First, the facts. Is That Love hit the UK singles chart on May the 1st, 1981, peaking at number 35. A bit of a letdown after the top 20 success of Another Nail in My Heart and Pulling Muscles from the Shell from Argy Bargy. It's a Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook composition, as always, with Difford's lyrics inspired by his recent wedding, capturing the messy push-pull of domestic love. The song clocks in at a lean 2 minutes and 31, produced by Elvis Costello and Roger Bachirian, who gave East Side Story a richer, more eclectic vibe than the nervy pop of Argy Bargy. The video, featured on Top of the Pops in 81, has the band in playful mood, with fans mishearing Beat Me Up With Your Letters as Beat Me Up With Your Lettuce, a goofy anecdote Squeeze themselves laughed about on X in 2025. Lyrically, Is That Love is Difford at his observational best, turning the mundane into poetry. You've left my ring by the soap, now is that love? You clean me out, you could say broke, now is that love? These lines aren't grand declarations, they're the small stinging details of a relationship fraying at the edges, delivered with a wry smirk. Tilbrook's melody, upbeat and jangly, contrasts the lyrical bite, making the song feel like a sunny day with a storm brewing. It squeezes knack for balancing light and dark, like a pub chat that suddenly turns confessional. Let's talk about the leap from Argy Bargy to East Side Story. Argy Bargy, released in February 1980, was Squeeze in Their Pomp as the follow-up to Cool for Cats, the album which made them, hitting number 32 in the UK and cracking the Billboard 200 at 71. It was a new wave classic, all twitchy energy and kitchen sink storytelling with tracks like Pulling Muscles and If I Didn't Love You showcasing Difford's wordplay and Tilbrook's knack for earworm hooks. Jules Holland's piano added a cheeky flourish, but he was getting restless, and by the end of 1980 he was out, chasing a solo career. Enter Paul Carrack, ex-Roxy Music and Ace, who brought a soulful edge to East Side Story, and we'll hear more about him on the next Squeeze song. The album, released on May the 15th, 1981, peaked at number 19 in the UK, outdoing Argy Bargy's chart run with 26 weeks on the charts. East Side Story was a bold swing, originally planned as a double album, with producers like Costello, Dave Edmunds and Nick Lowe each taking a side. It was scaled back but still sprawled across genres, rockabilly, R&B, soul, even a touch of psychedelia. Tracks like Tempted, with Carrick's lead vocal, and Labelled with Love, a country-tinged weeper that hit number 4 in the UK, showed Squeeze wasn't content to stay in the new wave box. Argy Bargy was a tight, polished pop record. East Side Story was looser, more ambitious, like the song was testing how far they could stretch without losing their core. Diffid's lyrics got sharper, more narrative-driven, while Tilbrook's melodies leaned into soul and country influences, thanks to Costello's production nudging them towards riskier territory. Back to Is That Love? It's not the flashiest single from East Side Story. Tempted and labelled with love stole more of the spotlight. The song's tempo was boosted after early versions fell flat, a tweak that gave it that zippy, almost frantic energy. It's got Tilbrook's bright guitar riffs and a rhythm section that pushes forward like it's late for a train. Carrick's keyboards add a new texture, less quirky than Holland's but more soulful, grounding the song in a way that feels like a bridge between Argy Bargy's nervy pop and East Side Story's genre-hopping confidence. What makes Is That Love stick is its honesty. Those lyrics, the roof is leaking and the car's a joke, now is that love, hit like a dart because they were so specific, so lived in. There was always a very British truth to Squeeze. Diffid wasn't writing about idealised romance, he was scribbling down the frustrations of real life, post-wedding, in a cab to Heathrow. Squeeze were always at their best when they leaned into that Britishness, grubby flats, seaside holidays, the quiet desperation of everyday life. This song, an East Side Story as a whole, continues the fact that they were storytellers, genre magpies, the Lennon-McCartney of Deptford. So Is That Love isn't the peak of East Side Story's chart success or cultural footprint, but it's a crucial piece of Squeeze's story. It's the sound of a band growing up, swapping some of Argy Bargy's youthful snark for something deeper, more varied, without losing their wit or charm. We finish today with a British 80s icon, someone still getting out there on social media, still on chat shows and recently on Strictly Come Dancing. It's Toya Wilcox. While punk's frothy exuberance was fading, the air is still thick with hairspray and hair colour, and a 23-year-old Toya Wilcox is about to unleash a song that's half battle cry, half glitter-dusted rebellion. I Want to Be Free, dropped in May 1981 by the English new wave band Toya, and it's a moment, a fist raise against the suffocation of conformity. Let's talk about the woman and the wild, sprawling career that's kept her in the UK's cultural bloodstream for over 4 decades. This is Toya's World, and we're just visiting. This is track 7, our final track today. Toya Ann Wilcox was born on May the 18th, 1958 in Kings Heath, Birmingham. Her dad, Beric, ran a joinery business with 3 factories. Her mum, Barbara Joy, was a professional dancer who twirled on stage with Flanagan and Allen. Toya's childhood was a mix of ups and downs. She was born with legs bent inward and clawed feet, plus dyslexia that made school a nightmare. By 18, she was at the National Theatre, surrounded by actors and musicians, itching to form a band. She stumbled into a punk outfit rehearsing at Golders Green Cemetery, yes really, before linking up with guitarist Joel Bogan in 1977 to form Toya, the band. They gigged hard, played pubs and colleges, recorded demos in a converted warehouse called Mayhem. Signed to Safari Records in 1978, they dropped their debut single Victims of the Riddle in 1979, which topped the UK indie chart. Their first album, Sheep Farming in Barnet, started as an EP in Germany before morphing into a full LP. By 1980, The Blue Meaning hit number 40 on the UK albums chart, and Toya was shaking off punk's raw edges for a new wave sheen. Her acting gigs, like playing Monkey in 1979's Quadrophenia alongside Sting and Phil Daniels, gave her a parallel career, boosting her music's reach. Enter I Want to Be Free, the second single from Toya's 1981 album Anthem, which peaked at number 2 on the UK albums chart. Written by Wilcox and Bogan, produced by Nick Tauber, the song's a raw nerve of frustration. Toya was 14 when she started sketching the lyrics, channeling her teenage rage against the school system that tried to box in her dyslexic nonconformist self. As she told interviewers, it's about seeing the individual, not wiping them away from a future just because they can't add up. The track's got this urgent, jagged energy. Wilcox's vocals soar and snarl over a driving beat and synth stabs. It's not subtle, but neither was 1981. The single stormed the charts, hitting number 8 on the UK singles chart and number 1 on the UK indie chart. It also cracked the top 10 in Ireland, the top 40 in Australia and New Zealand, earning a silver certification in the UK. Backed by a Top of the Pops appearance, it pushed Anthem to platinum status. The 7-inch single came with 2 B-sides, Walkie Talkie and Alien, later tacked onto the 1999 Anthem reissue. The song's video is, as you would expect for a colourful character, Toya's orange hair flaring like a supernova, her makeup a war paint palette of rebellion. It's her rejecting the pigeonhole of expectations, a theme that's defined her career. By 1982, she won Best Female Singer at the Rock and Pop Awards pre-Brits and was nominated for British Breakthrough Act and Best Female Solo Artist at the 1982 Brit Awards. After Toya the band split in 1983, she went solo, signing with Portrait Records for 1985's Minx. Her experimental 1988 album Prostitute leaned into raw expressive songwriting, and she collaborated with her husband King Crimson guitarist Robert Fripp, whom she married in 1986. Their joint projects like 1991's Ophelia's Shadow and the band's Sunday All Over the World showed her versatility. Fast forward to the 1990s and Toya's media presence exploded. She hosted art shows like First Night and Time Off, popped up on Watchdog Health Check and This Morning, and reported for BBC's Holiday. Her VH1 shows, Toya and Toya and Chase, cemented her as a TV staple. In 2003, she bared all in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, later writing Diary of a Facelift about her cosmetic surgery, a brutally honest bestseller that sparked debate. By 2018, Paul McCartney awarded her a Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts companionship for her contributions to music and drama. Then came 2020's lockdown, when Toya and Fripp became YouTube sensations with their Sunday Lunch series. From their Worcester home, they covered everything from Slipknot's Psychosocial to Bowie's Fashion, racking up 100 million views. Toya, often in outrageous costumes, and Fripp, shredding with deadpan humour, turned their kitchen into a stage. They toured the UK in 2023, performing these covers live. In 2024, Toya hit the Strictly Come Dancing ballroom at 66, paired with Neil Jones. She called it a wild and wonderful ride, inspired by her friend Angela Rippon, though she was eliminated in week 3 after dance-off against Tom Dean and Paul Merson. Still, she told Grazia she was flying the flag for pensioners, embracing the sequins and sweat. Toya's never stopped. In 2025, she's set to release Chameleon, the very best of Toya, a career-spanning collection, and join Gary Davies on BBC Radio 2's Sounds of the 80s. From punk clubs to Strictly, she's lived her I Want to Be 3 ethos, unboxed, untamed, and undeniably herself. So we are through the first half of Playlist 24, but do join us next week when we get into possibly Hazel O'Connor's greatest song, which also happens to be the moment when we can say the 80s saxophone solo has fully arrived. We get George Harrison's personal lament to John Lennon, and high points for both Randy Crawford and Odyssey, amongst others. As usual, if you can leave us a lovely review on your pod platform of choice, please, it really helps me climb the rankings. But until next time, have a wonderful week. Take care.